Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I'm going to get on tonight because a couple of things here. So, first I want to start out with the Word of God always. See, the Word of God is what's supposed to be law. And it says, owe no man anything but to love one another. For if you loved one another, you've fulfilled the law. It also says that God wrote His Word of law on our heart with the index finger of His right hand. And so we're going to start this talk about indexes with the first index. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So, just to show you the connection with index, and then we have all these other indexes that we deal with in regards to who's writing what into what index, meaning what record. And so when we think about going down to the registrar and we want to look up a record, they got a lot of records down there, folks. And they're all indexed according to their own needs. Social Security uses a certain index style. And same with all those files and records down there at the courthouse. They use their various different index styles, each one of them needing different information, so they have different indexing. And of course that indexing goes according to the graph. And when we look at a graph on a piece of paper, it would be like a T ledger or something like that, an index ledger, an invoice ledger, and they've got all different kinds, they've got a lot of different styles. And so they all use different kinds of grammar. And when we take our grammar from our literal word and start putting it on paper in writing, that's a certain kind of graph. And it starts out as a phoneme, a phonic sound. And then it gets morphed into a grapheme, which has no sound at all, but can be translated so somebody else can read it and issue forth the same sound. So it uses a different index to pass along the information to return it back to the original index or style. So I'm going through and I'm looking at various different things and contemplating things as I always do. And I realize there's a big difference that I hadn't really noticed before. And like I've been explaining, that birth registration starts out by abstracting information and creating it on another form where it's divided up into its own section. What it's doing is it's creating an organizational person. But the difference is that's a United States person. And the distinction is there's a United States citizen that is part of a United States citizenry as a United States citizenship. Now this ship is already set up and being manned, as they call it. And you can be part of that citizenry by being a citizen. When you're part of that citizenry, there's different capacities. And as just a regular citizen, you really don't have a person. There is a United States person, but there's really no absolute connection, and you're just operating under a lot of presumptions and assumptions. Because first of all, it's never been organized. Second of all, prior to being organized, there has to be a plan and an intent. Now, though the United States has its plan and its intent, there's never been a meeting of the minds to coincide that, okay, we have the same plan and the same intent, and therefore we can both certify it and qualify an organization that has a board of directors and has the same mission in mind. And that takes a lot of different indexes along the way as you develop those organizational skills. Those organizational skills, come to find out, in everybody's mind, they want to be their own boss and have their own business. And so they want to do all this paperwork and index everything, just like the system taught them. While at the same time trying to use that to show the world that they're their own God and they can govern themselves. I think that's kind of a fallacy. So anyway, I wanted to look up some terms. And like I said, I thought citizen and person were kind of odd in the way they reflect upon each other, because they're actually two different statuses. A person is only a person once they are organized. It can only be cognized as a person once it's in fact an actual person. Otherwise it's still a presumption, and it leads to a lot of different things that are creating a very false record. So let's take a look at definition of city resident and county resident. Okay, as we see here, this is from Law Insider, city resident, and you'll find this a common set of words in most any place you find the term city resident, because it's in fact a legal term. In other words, you're probably not going to find this specific term of city with resident in a common dictionary. You're probably only going to like it. It's more of a modern term. Means a person. City resident means a person. Now, if you guys are familiar with me, I go over it again and again and again. 19 USC 81-0, where it says resident. The only persons allowed to reside within the zone are federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. Now, that resident presence being deemed necessary by the board is the commercial necessity of operating as a transmitting utility within the zone. And that zone is a foreign trade zone granted by the United States through the state and the county into the city. And it says, city resident means a person who, at the time such person makes an offer to purchase a unit. I want people to pay attention to that term unit right there. Unit is capitalized, and I assure you, on up the lines of the definitions and legal terms, that unit is in regards to a postal unit. All persons have to have a physical address to locate the trustee. It has to have a viable diplomatic channel in which to serve notice. And that unit is its service unit. Produces a driver license, utility bill, lease, or other, based on two documents. Not 2 identifications, 2 documents. And so when you give them an address, you are putting into the record an offer of a person to operate as a transmitting utility because you've already purchased a unit, and you prove it by giving them that unit known as an address, a postal unit. The Postal Service is the one that doesn't have a license, and it is the one that requires others to have driver's license, utility bills, and lease and other documents proving they have right to access and use the conservation easement. City resident means the owner of record of property registered in the city of Myrtle Beach. And this is just an example. But it would be a resident means the owner of a record of property registered in the city. Are you holding a driver's license with a city address? Or is it a county address? Or is it a state address? Or heaven forbid if it's a federal address because it's got a fucking zip code on it. Is that multiple jurisdictions? Who really owns that address? Is it the city? Is it the state? Is it the county? Is it the federal government? Or would that be the post office who carries the trademark? Who has an indentured agreement through the United States Postal Service as a registered agent and the Postal Regulatory Commission, the registered agent being the commercial entity and the Postal Regulatory Commission being the military entity. So while being a resident, are you both a commercial entity operating for a military capacity to form contracts as warrant officers of that military? City resident means anyone residing within the city limits. Remember that one USC 1? City limits. Clause. When providers share a geographical area, but one is physically located within a city and the other physically located outside of the city. They're trying to say that if you reside within the city limits, then you're one of the providers. When you're actually one of the end users. Comprehend the terms and conditions they're using in this shit, folks. For any portion of the year who can provide a current driver's license or other valid identification showing a residential address within the city. That's the main element right there. Showing a residential ad. They don't care about your name. They want that residential address. A current motor vehicle registration, again, showing a residential address within the city, and 2 of the following proofs of residency based on 2 documents. They just need 2 documents with a matching address. Okay, now let's look at county. County resident isn't there. There is no such thing as a county resident. There is no state resident. There is no federal resident. It is only county of residence, state of residence, and federal area of residence. So let's go on with this. County of residence means the county, and watch this. I hope Malika's watching. If not, I'm sure she'll get to watch this because this is funny. This is from Law Insider, county of residence definition, and this is something we pride ourselves on in our Lawful Living Zooms. County of residence means the county in this state. In this state means within the exterior limits of the state of California or your state. You're going to find this in every state. And includes all territory within those limits owned by or ceded to the United States of America, the indispensable party. And the debtor is United States. And that debtor is located in District of Columbia, and District of Columbia has no statehood. It is the corporate entity, and United States of America is the one with statehood. In this state means the area within the borders of this state, including all territories within the borders owned by, held in trust by, or added to the United States of America. Like wording. In this state means the area within the border of this state, including all land within the borders of this state, owned by the United States of America. Again, that's land. That's the United States of America. That is proper statement. However, the corporate entity only has an interest as a commercial operation affixed, appurtenant, subadjacent, adjacent to the land, fixtures, premises, things like that upon the land, but does not include the land. So let's go on to the next one. So I'm looking up some indexes. I find something peculiar because this is Black Hawk County, Iowa on the website, but they actually do business as Black Hawk County, IA. And so when we look them up on the business entities, Iowa Secretary of State Paul D. Pate, business entity search, and we look them up on there. This is, like I said, Black Hawk County, IA. This is their actual doing business name. What? Sorry. No research. No results. Search again. So Black Hawk County itself is not even operating as a business, evidently, according to the state register. What do counties do? Counties in Iowa have a dual purpose to provide state services. See, it's the county that's providing the state services. And the county is providing the state services because they're the trusted debenture operator of the state on a local basis for that trade zone. And to determine local service needs, which are the municipalities within that county, which are the service needs of the county. Okay? Now those cities operate as transmitting utilities for tax purposes. And we'll show you that. Counties originally existed to carry out state functions at the local level. So counties have always been grassroots level governments. Iowa's counties make a big impact on their citizens, whether it is human services, economic development, road maintenance, DARE programs, battered women's shelters, home health care nurses, library improvements, elections, local, state, and national, or county parks. How are counties funded? Property taxes are the main source of income for counties and make up approximately 43% of their budget on average statewide. Counties are funded by municipal property taxes, not by the state. Counties are not funded by the state, yet that's who they service. You guys see that? The Iowa primary Iowa property tax is primarily a tax on real property, which is mostly land, buildings, structures, and other improvements such as a building, house, or mobile home, fences, and paving. You know, them parking lots, Malika. Generally, homeowners pay less than half of the property tax collected each year in Iowa. Farmers pay 19%, utility companies pay 8%, and business and industry a total of 25%. Counties have only a limited ability to raise money in other ways. One such way is the local option sales tax, only possible with a favorable vote from the citizenry. Iowa property taxes are allocated to several taxing authorities, as indicated on the quote below. Okay, so if the local option sales tax is an option sales tax, what are the Iowa property taxes? Are they mandatory? I ask serious questions because I read this shit and I want to know why. Why is one literally called a local options sales tax, and the other one, posed as an Iowa property tax, is presumed to be mandatory and not optional? Anybody answer that for me? So, let's go on to the next part. This is Black Hawk County again, and we're talking about indexes. We're going to switch from like the land records and stuff, and I'm going to go back to my particular situation. Because I don't have any land. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers, sojourners with me. And the only thing I can do with the land is redeem it. So, we're going to look at the redeemer information, the stuff that's been indexed, and find out what's going on there. And before we do, I want to remind people that one of the reasons I'm so interested in this is because I have this document here that says financial index. And on a financial index, two of the elements that are not supposed to include is a birth date, which I don't know if they've actually included a birth date because they call it a DOB, date of birth. But it sure looks like a birth date. And they're also not supposed to include a social security number. And though it says SSN, it may not be a social security number because, again, it's an acronym. I don't know if it means social security number. This actually means supposedly date of birth, which is not actually a birth date. SSN could be selective service number, but it certainly isn't a social security number as it poses because there's no hyphens. Social security number is specifically styled with the hyphens. This one is not. So here we have two elements that are listed on a financial index that aren't supposed to be there. And that financial index, instead of posing myself through the last name, like Little Keith Orland, as if though that's actually me. Again, Little Keith Orland, case ID. Little Keith Orland. Case ID, different. Why is it different? Now they've got a number. And then the rest of it's blank because they're using the whole file. So it's just the local file number. Every one of my cases has that local file number on it. So, when we look at the last / firm, they use the firm name instead of the last name. And as below, they said it was an SSN number, and here they call it a obligor. Obligee, there's no obligee and no payor. but they call this an obligor. Whereas down here, they call it an SSN. It's the same thing. How come they're calling it different things? I call that ambiguous and certainly deceptive. So, let's get on and do that search. Because here we have Black Hawk County, Iowa. See, that's the correct business name, Black Hawk, Iowa, and then it says recorder, and it's got her name, Sandy Smith. Indexed records. And you can do a quick name search, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do a quick name. And again, like I showed you on the case file lookup, they actually put it right out there in Iowa. You can use the last name or the firm name. So let's enter it in. And notice, it automatically enters it in all caps. I can try to put it in lowercase all I want, but it's going to enter it in all caps. Okay? Then begins with, exactly. Both sides you can do, there's either two parties, one party or two party, or you can do both sides. So when we see third party, that's a third party intervention somewhere. Okay? So if they're trying to drag us in as a party with two parties already named, then we're the intervener in regards to the actuality of it. We're not even supposed to be in there. I'm telling you. Okay? Index, corporations, general, groundwater hazard, plat, all. We're going to do all. And we're going to do the date from today's date. And in my case, we're going to go all the way back to, 12 years ago. No, let's go back to high school. Let's do the whole 38 years. Or whatever it is, 38 years. Pay attention. Criteria, date from 7/11/2022, date through 7/11/1984. Given name. Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Don't tell me AI is stupid. It was programmed. Are you paying attention? Do not tell me AI is stupid. It was programmed. Somebody input the program to show that a given name is lowercase. I urge you people, like I've said many times, to get a concise English handbook and learn what the hell is going on. Maybe visit some Amish villages and go speak to them people. Ask them why. Firm name, they do the same thing, but they don't give you the given name. So what do you think, guys? Where do you think that first index is? Do you think anything on that index means a difference? It does if you see what it's saying and how it's inconsistent, and then you can just shove it right up their ass. Because clearly, any man with reason and logic can look at that document, that index that I showed you, financial index, and see how they're proving their own deception, or certain deception, or evidently something that's very inconsistent when they call it an obligor in one spot and an SSN in another spot, and it implies that it's an SSN, a Social Security number, which is not styled like a Social Security number. So, yes, Bonnie, the percent sign after that, in that, again, AI is not stupid. There was a percent sign there for a reason. It's meaning that it was certified, but that's the problem. Like I've said many times, the certification is false. If you did not certify it yourself in a handwritten statement of your intent with a plan for an effect of an outcome that is along the same mission as they have, like I said earlier, an organized plan to do certain things and provide a board of directors with bylaws so you can operate in that corporate capacity and actually represent a person in court, then something's wrong. And that's the problem. They're saying it's certified because they did their part of it, and they're just waiting for somebody else to come up and give the second certification. It cannot possibly operate in fact and in truth, in law, unless there are two certifications. This is contract law saying both people have to certify it. I never certified a fucking thing. I've never signed anything under penalty of perjury, not once. Not once. So we really need to start thinking about what we're doing, folks, and what our index finger is doing. And again, like I said, I've never made a certification. And at the same time, when people are afraid of that signature, remember, UCC 3-402, the authorized representative giving an unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. So long as a man knows that one thing, they can qualify anything as, okay, I'm going to sign as I'm authorized to, but you'll have to check with the guy that's got the authority for any public liabilities. I'm only authorized to sign so you can go ahead and do what you need to do. But remember, I'm signing as a beneficiary because he told me it's just a matter of convenience. I'm the beneficiary. Or actually, let me correct. I'm the benefactor for that beneficiary record, and you'll have to check with the authority in order to allow the release of the liability so that the beneficiary can receive the asset. That's technically how it's supposed to be. But these people don't comprehend contract and trust law not one bit. Because again, they're nothing but narcissistic, authoritarian pigs. Learn these simple things, and it's just going to start putting itself together for you. I urge everybody to get a concise English handbook and learn how to tear it down so that you can see exactly what's being said. And throw it right back. Because these people, ask them, can you read? That was one of the damnedest things I've come to realize in my life, was 6 years ago when that judge looked at me and said, do you understand? Do you understand English? And I said, yes. And I had to think about that and come to realize, I'll be damned, I don't. So I had to sit back and start relearning. So again, that's why I deal with the etymology, etiology, and epistemology. I learned the importance of going back to the roots. In doing that in the research, that's what took me back to my roots. And again, I'm not here trying to preach to anybody or try to tell you I'm following. I want you to follow me, or I'm trying to lead you. I want you to step up and walk with me. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind. Quit signing all those documents that are holding you back. or learn the effect of how to place the liability where it belongs. Because if it says that you're not liable on the instrument for the person named in the instrument, then that should tell you that the liability sits in the record. So if we correct the record, it removes the liability. And that's as simple as it gets. Again, I repent. I didn't know what I was doing, but now that I've stopped and re-educated myself and gotten that higher education, thank my Father in heaven, now I comprehend the true word. And boom. Like I said, it's like riding a bike. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. The better you get at it, the easier it becomes for you. The easier it becomes for you, the more you want to do it. The more you want to do it, the better you get at it. So anyway, I wanted to put that out there and let people know you really need to realize what's going on in regards to the terms and conditions that you're using when you call yourself a resident or a city resident, or think that you're a resident of the county. Or you really need to learn how the words are placed and what they actually mean. Because there are several ways that you can take down the term resident. Resident, somebody that resided, they went from one side to another side. Or the res ident, the body identification. Res being body and ident meaning identification. I, dentures. I told you about my body. It was my body that told you. Res ident. Quit telling them that you're a resident. It's your own fault. So anyway, again, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. So God bless you. I'm going to post my PayPal link, and hopefully you can share some love. But if not, at least keep sharing the information. That's all I'm doing. That's my duty. In my duty, if you can share some love, I'd really appreciate it. In the meantime, again, God bless. I love you. Have a great night. Bye.